My guest in studio today is George Awala, who's the director for VSO, which is Voluntary Service Overseas. Karibu sana to the show.
Asante sana.
Now, COVID obviously has changed a lot of things, not just, our interpersonal relationships, but obviously related to that then would be even our workspaces and how we interact at work. And for those who are leaders in that space, they certainly need to be at the forefront of being the ones to adapt to this sort of new world that we're living in. I know a lot of people don't like calling it the new normal because it feels like a struggle to have to change and adapt ourselves. But that's what's required of us, really, if we're supposed to thrive in the future, considering the times. And so as people are going back to work right now, and we're expecting things not to be the same, perhaps maybe you can just sort of give us a little teaser as far as what we can expect as far as some of the different changes that we might see in the workplace.
Definitely there will be a lot of changes. A lot of it will be driven by technology because this is a golden moment for us to really harness technology and the opportunities that digital platforms provide to us. Like, for instance, instead of physical meetings, doing more online connections, using more collaborative tools like maybe Microsoft Teams or Slack. It's also important for business leaders to really realize that they have to get comfortable with living with uncertainty. Because at any given point in time, you will have maybe just 60% of the information that you need to make any decision.
Wow.
COVID-19 has shown us that even those who are really experienced and understood business are also failing. They're struggling.
Nobody has all the answers.
No one has all the answers. So it's important to really kind of navigate from point to point. Once you reach one point, turn again and look at what do I need to do. So having really good business continuity plans will really help businesses. And also just reflecting a bit about how your work reality is. Do you need all these people interacting? Do you need them to work more remotely? In VSO, for instance, maybe about 3 weeks before the lockdown or the partial containment measures, we had already started working remotely. And so it became as a normal. Last year, we developed a policy of working from home. So that's helped us to kind of be ahead of the curve.
And obviously, just because of how much this has touched people's lives and may continue to touch their lives, I guess I feel that there's a strong element of humanity that really needs to come into the workplace, maybe far greater than we've ever seen before. For a leader, is that something that they should be embracing, or do we sort of just now need to like lay down the whip because, already we only have 60% of information, there's a lot of leeway as far as your office hours and where you work from? Is it now like go hard or go home, or is there really space for there to be a more empathetic style of leadership now?
I think this is the time for empathetic leadership, really connecting with people, listening to them, understanding their fears and worries, because with COVID, almost everyone is scared. People are fearful, not just about their day-to-day job, but even whether that job will be there in the next 6 months. So it's important to really connect with people, help them to appreciate that they have a role to play in navigating through this conflict. So as a leader, work very closely with your senior management team or your leadership team to ensure that you really connect with people. Every week, have a platform where people can talk and express their fears and worries. So every Monday morning at 10 o'clock, all of us at VSO in Kenya, we're about 60 or so, we connect, we have a brief health check. How has your weekend been? How was your week? What are your worries? We use an online platform where you can write on a whiteboard. Nobody will know who's scared or who's giving any opinion because it's all anonymous. But then once we consolidate all this information, we now bring it together and use it to reflect in terms of what's this telling us about our staff and volunteers.
Right.
Where are they at this moment? what are their main worries? What are their main concerns? What do we need to address within the week or even the weeks to come?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. And honestly, I'm kind of feeling it for those bosses who've been really tough in the past, because they're going to have quite some adjustments to make. Also, just because you don't want to lose good talent because, you know, one's personality or style of leadership has refused to change. And I guess that's a real risk for many in leadership today.
It is a big challenge, especially for those who are stuck to their old ways of doing things,
Yeah.
or even believe in things called, in quotes, industry standards. Because, I mean, if you're in the airline industry, how can your industry standards help you right now? Chances are you have to really reorient your business and look at it from a very different perspective.
Yeah.
Or even in the hospitality industry or in education, which have been really affected by the COVID-19.
Absolutely.
But looking at opportunities to remain relevant and engage. For instance, can education, for instance, or trainings be provided on an alternative platform? Can you train your staff so that they are comfortable with providing training and capacity building on these new platforms? At VSO, we've trained our staff. They're now comfortable with providing training through Zoom or other online platforms. And now they're helping our partners in some of the projects that you're working on to be able to now reach more people through online or even just using SMSs and phones in a way that we haven't used them before. I think the other thing that leaders really need to also appreciate is that it's important to have structure, put structure into things so that even though things may look like we don't know how the future looks precisely, people can see some level of order as you move forward.
Right.
And that does not really call for one to be autocratic because people will rebel.
Absolutely.
But if you are more connected, you provide a platform for people to talk,
Yeah.
openly share their views, then it's more likely that you will win them over and support them. And sometimes also it's important to change the goal and even what you're working towards.
Yeah.
Because
And hopefully this season has taught us that. Like,
yeah.
really taught us what is the value of life and what are the most important things, even relating to the conversation we were just having this morning about joy.
Yeah,
And the
true.
things that really allow people to thrive and to be themselves. And as you were talking, I just kept thinking about this is an age where we really need to move more into that human-centered design, human-centered ways of working,
True,
human-centered policies, everything. Just less about business and the bottom line, but more about empowering the people that will hopefully even bring you bigger returns then.
Yeah, very true. I mean, we believe in a people-first culture, and we have a framework that enables us to really work with people in a way that empowers them, enables them to have space to voice their concerns, to present their ideas. Those ideas are accepted and are also factored in any decisions that are being made. I think it's also important to also look at the wider community that you serve, because it's not just your staff and volunteers that are important to you at this point in time. How you connect with your client, how you connect with your beneficiaries or your primary actors is really critical, because it's at this point in time that they will value and appreciate you more. If at this time you're also still just pushing and pushing for sales, they'll be like, hey, don't you understand what's happened here? Let's step back a bit. I have a day that maybe has been ruined by XYZ.
Yeah.
So why don't you also listen to me first, and then we can talk business.
Right.
So really changing your mind frame about how you approach your day-to-day work, and also how you navigate through this complex environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems like in the beginning for a lot of these leaders, the biggest challenge, and it might prevail for a while, is just finding the right talent. The people who are willing to work hard, they can work independently, you don't have to keep chasing over them all the time. So I feel like it's less about boasting about, we have a staff of, 1,000 people. Rather, you almost just want 100 people who are very effective at what they do.
Very true.
Yeah.
I think it's important to hire people for their potential, not necessarily maybe even what they've done in the past, because it may be relevant. What would be critical is...
I think I can hear a lot of hallelujahs from guys who are jobless right now.
Yeah, because I think what's important is, are these people ready to navigate through this change?
Yeah.
Are they flexible enough to accommodate remote working, virtual working? Will they be self-supporting? Because working remotely, even from home, can be very stressful because
It's
in the
children
office you can
running
quickly
around.
go and reach out to someone or catch up on coffee or tea and talk. But here you are, you're surrounded by maybe your kids, your wife, or other people, and they may not necessarily be the go-to people. So you have to really be more independent,
Right.
thinking more about how can I find this information pretty quickly, who else do I need to connect with? So the power of connection will also be very important. What networks do these people have beyond just hard experience? Because, I mean, nobody had any experience of navigating through COVID, but
Right.
COVID has provided a new industry where now people are experts around COVID. So they will talk about COVID and maybe gender-based violence, COVID and education, COVID and health and other issues that maybe originally were not very related.
Right.
So it's important to find individuals who have that self-drive, who are very flexible, who are very adaptable, because these are the people who will help you to navigate round another corner when another pandemic or an event that could be catastrophic like
Right.
COVID comes along.
Takes time. Yeah. And so I guess getting to that point and finding those people might be a big challenge and it might take a while. But once that's sort of done and that box is ticked, maybe some leaders would have reason to be really happy with this sort of new world that we're going into. I mean, we're talking about reduced overhead costs. You know, maybe you don't have to pay as much rent for your office space. You could downsize to a smaller space. All those little things. The way we hear politicians go and have 4 million bob worth of chai, even in the office now, you're not buying tea bags and milk and all of that. So the benefits actually might be far-reaching.
I think it's important really to make decisions quickly about where your resources are going, because you need this money to be reprogrammed or moved into something else. If you have a big fancy office, it's important that you think about, do we need this office as it is? Or maybe more flexible ways of being in a different structure which can still accommodate some stuff, but majority of the workers work remotely would be the way to go. It's also important to think about what kind of technologies and knowledge do we need at this moment to enable us to navigate that future. And preparing your staff immediately, because I mean, you don't have the luxury of time. So you must kind of every step develop their potential, help them to see that indeed I have a role to play. I have to learn quickly. I have to adapt quickly. I have to really put a project, maybe wear that risk management hat, even if I'm not necessarily responsible for managing risk per se, because that will be useful. Looking at some of the projects that we've been involved in, some of them were looking at things like education. We reprogrammed and looked at how do we now deliver education differently. The Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development has education programs that are running, but they're not reaching the most marginalized people. So how can we ensure that the most marginalized are reached? So we are using community radios in the remotest parts, in Turkana, in Wajir, in Isiolo, to reach kids who ordinarily would not be learning. So you have to really ensure that you move around monies to put them into the right spaces so that they can be useful for the future. Because if you invest in education, you will be able to create a new generation of leaders. You are just talking about, where do you get these people who will have these skills and talents? We have to start planning for the future, because the future of work is very much looking at the digital space, looking at how technology will enable us to do things. And with that in mind, how do we walk back and start using that technology now to prepare for that future?
Very good points there. And as we wrap up now, for those who would be hoping to be promoted into positions of leadership and into senior management, you've talked about risk management being one of an important skill that basically all of us need to establish, it seems. But also the fact that we've seen the people who've gotten into those positions, and it's because they've conducted themselves in a certain way. But it seems that leadership now is also moving to a point where we cannot rely on that previous experience, right? What would you sort of advise those hoping to, maybe they had been lined up for a promotion this year and obviously now things have changed. What would you counsel them as far as how to position themselves now to be a leader in this new workforce age?
I think it's really important that they demonstrate at this moment that they can navigate change quickly. And it's in different ways in terms of what kind of connections are they making with the rest of the world, with their colleagues, with their clients. And on the basis of that, then you can look at whether they have the potential to be able to navigate similar change in the future. I think also diversity of talent will be really important.
Yeah.
So do they really possess unique qualities that make them stand out? And if you are creating a team, because I mean, in any business, you'll not just work with one individual, you'll have teams around you. Do they have diversity? And this diversity could be in terms of their experience, their culture, their background, their thought processes. You may not necessarily be in the creative industry, but get a creative in,
Right.
so that they can really stimulate how things are done,
Yeah.
change the way things are done. We are now looking more at, traditionally we've worked a lot with international volunteers and national volunteers, or individuals who are volunteering within Kenya. But now we are looking at what's the potential that e-volunteering will provide, so that you can create new connections. And we've started now working through models around e-volunteering. We have
Okay.
20 volunteers who are really skilled experts in the industry, but now they're giving their service so that they can support the new way of thinking and working.
All right. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here today. Someone here says, thank you for touching my life with good teaching. Good work. That's Mike. Another
thank you.
says, hey, Joyce, very good and relevant topic. And they were asking about what kind of opportunities might COVID open up, because a lot of us lost our jobs. And all we're hearing is you have to be tech savvy, or savvy, among other things. What about those lacking those skills? Very quickly, I know I need to go on break, but very quickly, if you could address this question here.
It doesn't mean that everything is on technology.
Yeah.
There are many other support and essential services that are really opening up in diverse industries that have to keep the economy going. So I think it's more of understanding, where do I really fit within that space,
Yeah.
on the basis of your own passion and interest.
Sure.
Because yeah, there are many other industries that are also expanding.
Yeah.
Services like cleaning services are expanding. They don't necessarily need you to be tech savvy to be able to do that.
Okay.
But if you can come out as the person who can really sanitize and enable places to really continue functioning, then you become relevant.
Yeah.
It could be humble, but it's something that enables you to put food onto the table
Yeah.
and continue living your life, even as you navigate through and look at what the future provides.
Sure. And I like what you said. At the end of the day, we need to figure out how we as employees are going to make ourselves relevant. And so maybe it's not necessarily about being absolutely tech savvy, but there's all sorts of courses happening online.
Yeah,
Pick
true.
up a skill or two, as you're talking about Slack and all these
Yeah.
other platforms, be able to at least navigate those.
Yeah.
It will go a long way.
And interestingly enough, there are now more free online courses, even being offered by Harvard Business School.
Right.
Entities that originally you had to pay a fortune to
Right.
get that content.
Yeah.
So just search around, ensure that you spend your time wisely
And
if
your
you're
bundles
online.
wisely.
Yeah, so that you can be able to learn instead of maybe
Absolutely.
just entertain yourself all the time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Use your bundles wisely. Thank you very much, George
Okay,
Owala. Again,
thank you
he's
very
the
much.
director for VSO, which is the Voluntary Service Organization. It's been a great conversation with you this morning.
Thank
I do
you, Joyce.
appreciate your time. All right, guys, I do need to take a break now as we get ready for the top of the hour and our next segment. We're going to be touching on relationships, as well as Dennis continuing his weight loss journey. He's on the road to lose 100 kilos and he's only 24 years old. He's lost, I think it was 17 kilos so far. So 3 kilos to him hitting that 20 kg mark. Is today gonna be the day? We'll be finding out in the next hour. This is Full Circle with Joyce. Stay tuned.